The media always finds a way to kick and marginalize groups of people and hold them down while projecting the facade of inclusivity. In this video, I wanted to give my opinion on what I like to call forced representation in Hollywood, especially when it comes to female representation. In many instances, it leaves a lot of us feeling unsatisfied and almost uncomfortable. In all honesty, Hollywood continues to fail us and disappoint us, but for some reason, the MCU takes the cake. So, let's talk about it. Marvel Entertainment has been trying a lot of different things in the years since Endgame, and one of them is embracing women. But the way they have gone about it is not what I would say is the most ideal. And it's so funny because Marvel and Sony have made many amazing strides when it comes to representing minorities. Take the story of Miles Morales, for instance. That story made many people feel seen. And it was new, even though it was the story of Spider-Man, which has been told many times and in many different ways. And yet, they were still able to make Into the Spider-Verse feel fresh and versatile. Which is why I know that they aren't incapable of providing us with quality work. I mean, I always thought the women of Marvel were badass, but they were never really celebrated. They weren't the main focus of many of the movies, regardless of how much the audience loved them until the newer movies began to come out. Now Marvel has made an effort with two new films, The Marvels and Madame Web. But I want to focus on Madame Web because I feel as though it was the greatest disservice. I have to be honest, I was extremely excited for Madame Web when I first saw the teaser trailer in theaters. It intrigued me and I had high hopes for a decent enough outcome. Unfortunately, Madame Web's IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes scores showed just how much it was lacking. But regardless, I attempted to watch this shit show of a movie. And I say attempted because I was quite literally unable to finish it. I swear, I tried, but it was that bad. And I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt and hope that it was just misogynistic men rating it and calling it horrible. But no, it really was just that bad. For those of you who don't know, the movie follows Cassandra Webb, who is a New York paramedic. She learns that she is a clairvoyant after having a near-death experience and being confronted with her past. And now she must protect 3 young girls from a deadly adversary. I mean, it isn't a bad idea at all, and it makes for a very interesting story on paper. But once on screen, they completely fucked it up. Dakota Johnson, which is the main actress, seemed very over the movie during interviews and expresses that the script changed drastically throughout her time on the film. She even goes on to state that she now realizes that she doesn't belong in this world. The world of Marvel, which is sad because she did a decent job considering the material she had to work with. I'm not here to judge the actors and actresses of this film. They can only do so much. But rather, I want to talk about why I think this movie failed so much from the viewer's perspective. While I watched the movie, I noticed there were strange cuts, zoom-ins, and line deliveries. But overall, the pacing was too slow for my liking and left me wondering, when is this going to get good? And I'm putting good lightly because this movie was far from it. Even at the very beginning, I found myself getting overstimulated by the camera angles and filtering. As I watched, I got distracted by the littlest things around me, because at that point, anything was better than watching that film. And then I decided that it was no longer even worth my time. I want to reiterate how awesome this movie could have been, but at times it felt extremely rushed. But then I remember, wasn't the writer's strike happening around the time this movie was being made? Maybe that explains it, right? But from Marvel, we still all expected better. Not even just Marvel, but Disney. Disney owns Marvel. Madame Web from the comics has a very complex background, and in my opinion, the film failed to capture her depth and nuances. People began comparing it to the other Spider-Man movies and discussing how abundantly terrible it was. And I have to be honest, it did pale in comparison to the other films. If I compare it to Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire, although the movie is cringe at times, it still has that lovable feeling to it that people want to keep going back to see. I don't see that in Madame Web, unfortunately. And there were high expectations based off the trailer, of course. They were promoting the hell out of this film, and now we know why. From a financial standpoint, it was the first major Marvel movie in 2024 to have a budget under $100 million. Surprisingly, although it most definitely didn't break any records at the box office, they still managed to sufficiently replenish their cost. All of these aspects contribute significantly to this failure of a film. It is clear that Marvel did not put the same effort into this film as they've done with others, and unfortunately the audience could tell. And so, this is what I mean by forced representation. There was a lack of money and resources put into the film, and yet we are supposed to be happy because, oh, at least they gave us something. Women continue to be put on the back burner, and when we are finally in the spotlight, the films that are portraying us are doing poorly. Honestly, Marvel could have kept their money and their movie if they thought that this is what we wanted. And now, don't get me completely wrong, Marvel's attempts haven't been all bad. I didn't mind Captain Marvel or Gamora from Guardians of the Galaxy, but this movie was just lazy. Yep, it was lazy. Another interesting point though is that it just recently made its debut on Netflix and shot to the top of the movies list. So maybe this film just wasn't meant to be in theaters, but I find that extremely upsetting. This movie didn't fail because there were women involved, obviously. This movie failed because of the writers, the producers, and director failing to see that a change needed to be made in order for this film to be successful. And yes, I said successful, not barely scraping by just to make a paycheck. And that's what this movie felt like to me, a cash grab, but a stupid one because they could have made way more money if they actually just tried. Not to mention, this film had some pretty big names in it and new young stars who probably didn't expect the movie to do super well after having spent time working on it. I'm sure the initial script wasn't nearly as bad as what they ended up with, otherwise I'm sure many of them wouldn't have taken the movie. At least I hope they wouldn't have. For example, Sydney Sweeney. She's very talented, but recently I've been seeing her in so many movies and ads. I think she's just trying to keep her money up, and who can blame her in this economy? Especially when she was mostly in side roles in her first films, and now she's in the spotlight. I mean, I would try to keep that as well. And so, I think we'll be waiting a while for Marvel to introduce another female superhero that we haven't seen before in the cinematic universe, whose first film won't be a clusterfuck of failed ideas. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave in the comments what you guys thought of Madam Web. I'm curious to know about the initial impression of other people, because my first impression, like I said, was quite good until I actually watched the movie. Anyway, please like this video and subscribe for more content like this. Bye!